Top Thrill 2 is about to begin testing, but not for the reason you think. Now you're probably asking yourself, if Top Thrill 2 is testing, why wouldn't the coaster just be reopening? Well, there's a very good chance Top Thrill 2 is testing for a completely different reason. And unfortunately, it is part of the reason why Top Thrill 2 could be closed longer than we all expect. But before we get to that, let's cover the latest theme park news. Starting off with Six Flags New Orleans. So if you are unaware, this park was almost completely destroyed following, I believe it was Hurricane Katrina. The park was completely flooded, almost every single attraction was ruined, and it's been that way for 20-ish years. Nothing's happened, no one's done anything to the land, and it's just an abandoned amusement park. But it was recently announced that someone has indeed bought the land and will be finally using it for something else. And all of the attractions that were still left over from Six Flags New Orleans will be removed. I doubt at this point that anything is salvageable, and I would not be shocked whatsoever if all of this just becomes scrap. It is really unfortunate that this park was never saved and never rebuilt, but at the same time, it would have taken so much time, effort, and money to get this park back open and running again. It was likely that it just did not make sense to reopen the park. While Hurricane Katrina and this park being abandoned along with it is super unfortunate and sad, I am at least glad that the land is finally being put to good use and not just an abandoned amusement park. On a more positive note, Islands of Adventure just turned 25. So congratulations Universal, this is a super successful, super amazing park to visit. And yeah, honestly, I don't know what else to say here, but good job Universal. Sticking with Universal, on an interesting note, Starfall Racers is being renamed Stardust Racers. Why, you might ask? Well, because some company sued them because they said they used their name. And instead of fighting it and taking it to court, Universal decided it would just be easier to change the name. So it appears that their new coaster will be called Stardust Racers now. And I guess we'll have to see whether Universal does end up going back and fighting it, or if they just leave the name how it is right now. Because honestly, they're very similar, and I don't think it matters that much. But on an unfortunate note, Shanghai Disneyland will be introducing surge pricing. Which basically means if you go to buy a ticket when everyone else is trying to buy tickets, the price will become even higher because they know you're still going to buy a ticket. Now, this is probably not a great trend that we want to be seeing across the amusement park industry, because in certain instances, it can lead to you paying a lot more for a ticket you shouldn't have to pay nearly as much for. I'm very intrigued to see how well this does and what the general feedback is on it, but I have a feeling it's not going to go so great. But if it does, let's try to not give anyone any ideas. Because theme parks don't need to be any more expensive than they already are. Especially Disney. Alright, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. We have got to talk about Top Thrill 2. Alright, so there's a good chance that you've seen somewhere that Cedar Point has been putting the trains for Top Thrill 2 back on the transfer tracks. And they might just be beginning testing. Especially given that people have seen Cedar Point working on getting wheels back onto the trains. But it doesn't mean that Top Thrill 2 will be opening up anytime soon. In fact, it could mean the complete opposite. So according to a couple of sources, the trains are being put back together and being made ready to run so they can test the trains a bunch and evaluate and see what is even going on. But it gets even worse from here because they could be potentially redesigning the trains. Now, these are brand new from Zamperla. They've already designed them and they appear to be a good train design in general. But it does appear that they will have to be remaking and redesigning the wheel structure that was previously the problem. So this in theory should mean that the trains are staying pretty much the same, just with new wheel assemblies. Again, hopefully, fingers crossed, hopefully, making this coaster more reliable. Now you're probably asking yourself, when will this be open and when will I even be able to ride it? Because that answer has changed quite a few times over these past couple of weeks as we've been getting more information about what's really going on with Top Thrill 2. I initially said that Top Thrill 2 will most likely only be closed for a couple of weeks, maybe a month or so, but definitely not the whole summer. But given the fact that these trains are still being tested to even figure out what has gone wrong, and the fact that they have not even started redesigning the trains and making those new trains and shipping them over like whatsoever, that definitely pushes back the timeline. So let's assume that it'll take about a week or so to figure out what's really going on with these trains. And then let's say another couple, 2-3 weeks for the trains to get redesigned, and then a week for them to get shipped over to Cedar Point and prepared for test runs, and then an extra week to test them and make sure everything is working perfectly normal, troubleshoot anything that could potentially be wrong with the trains, and just make the coaster is running as smoothly and as reliably as possible. And then you probably need to add in like an extra buffer week in case something weird happens or the design takes longer than expected. If you factor all of that in, we're looking at well over a month at this point in time, with this closure stretching throughout all of June and potentially a couple weeks into July, and worst case scenario, even into August. Basically meaning that Top Thrill 2 could be shut down for almost all of the summer. And while that does seem like a long time, you can't rush something like this. And you have to make sure everything is done right. And trust me, Cedar Point wants this done quickly too, but you do have to get it right. I mean, Tony Clark got interviewed recently, and he said that it's difficult with Top Thrill 2 being closed for the park. Like, it's not good for the park. It might be disappointing for all of us who want to ride Top Thrill 2, but think they're also losing a lot of money on Top Thrill 2 right now. And a lot of people are very upset with Cedar Point because they're paying all this money to visit Cedar Point and they can't even ride Top Thrill 2. It's just kind of a bad situation for everybody right now. Cedar Point's hurting from this, Zamperla's hurting from this, and we can't ride Top Thrill 2. It's not... I'm just glad no one was hurt, and I really do hope that Cedar Point and Zamperla are able to figure this out as quickly and safely as possible, so we can all ride Top Thrill 2 this summer. But unfortunately, there's a good chance that Top Thrill 2 is not open for all of June, a majority of July, and maybe closed into August. When the news broke, I made a video discussing everything about Top Thrill 2, like what happened, how long it could be closed. So if you do want a little more information on all of this, check out the video on your screen right now. Make sure to drop a like down below, subscribe for more coaster content coming your way, and as always, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. And let's keep our fingers crossed, Top Thrill 2 opens here soon.